Hello, and welcome back, everybody. I'm gonna look in the mirror for a minute. Um, I think I share some of Job's outlook on the world, right? And I definitely have in my own life. Um, and this is a deep cut, right? So this shirt I'm wearing, Itachi Uchiha, part of the Uchiha clan, led by Madara Uchiha, who I think this is like really back into the lore and whatnot, but somehow caused the creation of Pain, which was the organization that wears this cloud. And it's an organization that was brought together to like help the world, but the guy who created it really just wanted to make the world feel the pain that he felt, which not good ideals, right? It's not. I don't think. I don't think it's the way, but maybe right. That's how some people view the world and life, right? Um, and I mean, I felt like an outcast in some points, right? Just for even like looking into things, it just kind of ostracizes you because, like, why would you want to know? But at the end of the day, right? And the reason that I wanted to know was like, how do you know what to look out for? You're telling me what to look out for, but like, how do you even know? And I'm living my own life now, and it's like, how do you ever know, right? You have to know things. And to be able to know things, you have to ask questions and talk to people, right? And experience things. So it is important, right? And like I said, people get here. If you don't get to this place at least once in your life, I mean, are you even living? Are you living under a rock? I don't know. You know? But, right. And then to go back to like, they started it, right? And a lot of people identified with it. But, like, it's not the right way. You know? It's not the right way. But God provides the correct way to do this stuff and to build, you know? So we're going to start 26. Man's frailty is fragility, and God's majesty. So Bildad just asked a question, right? More or less telling Job, you need to shut your mouth, right? You're talking to the creator right now. You're nothing. Nothing compared to the person who created you, right? You know? And this is Job's response. How have you helped him who is without power? How have you saved the arm that has no strength? How have you counseled one who has no wisdom? And how have you declared sound advice to many? So Job is now gaslighting. Right. He's got nothing left, and he's going to martyr everybody around him, and himself included. And he's now going after Bildad's just character and his general life and the life that he's led up to now to allow him to say the things that he is to Job. But, right, a little bit hypocritical. To whom have you uttered words? Oh no, he's having a God complex. And whose spirit came from you? The dead tremble, those under the waters and who's inhabiting them. You're getting a burp bonus this episode. I just had a peanut butter and jelly. Sheol is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. True, there's nothing left. He stretches out the north over empty space. He hangs the earth on nothing. He binds up the water in his thick clouds, yet the clouds are not broken under it. He covers the face of his throne and spreads his cloud over it. He drew a circular horizon on the face of the waters, at the boundary of light and darkness. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at his rebuke. He stirs up the sea with his power, and by his understanding he breaks up the storm. By his spirit he adorned the heavens, and his hand pierced the fleeing serpent. From the Garden of Eden? Or Coexoatl. The I know. I hope I pronounced that right. I hope I did Graham Hancock a service and justice by attempting to pronounce that correctly. I do forget what I think it was connected to Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe? Something like that. South American ruins. But similar to Sumeria having the Emerald Tablet and the Epic of Gilgamesh as their like creation story, as the Bible has Noah. Göbekli Tepe and Coexoatl, that was like their creation story, and a serpent brought knowledge. Who knows? I don't know why some people say the things that they do, but you never know. Maybe it was for moments like this. Indeed, these are the mere edges of his ways, and how small a whisper we hear of him. But the thunder of his power who can understand? I mean, even with all I know about science, lightning, first of all, weird. Electricity, weirder. Thunder? I know. Thunder of his power, who can understand, right? That's supposed to, I think, indicate in that sentence, like, you hear thunder, right? And it has an effect upon your body, right? Similar to, like, if you've ever seen an F-16 flying by you really fast, right? Or an F-35. They're breaking the sound barrier. And when they do that, it lets out an enormous bang. And it's almost like as if the thing is moving so fast that the air can't hold it back, and it's like popping. And it's like, I don't know. At the end of the day, at one point in time in my past, I had a better grasp on what it was. I've seen them, and I've seen the actual phenomenon of the sound barrier being broken, and it is fantastic, right? It's something different. But that, like, if you tried to explain that concept to somebody in the Bible, their head might explode. That's what's the fastest thing that they had probably witnessed thus far? Maybe a cheetah, right? Realistically, that was the fastest thing, or a gazelle, or I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know. They saw God, right? But that didn't even get them to believe. Job maintains his integrity, or so the author says. Moreover, Job continued his discourse and said, "As God lives, who has taken away my justice? And the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter?" You did, Job. You made your own soul bitter. You're in the kitchen, brewing your own little concoction, and you're over there adding way too much lemon juice, dude. That's why it's bitter. Ah, as long it's yeah, the plank in the eye thing, you know? As long as my breath is in me, you're gonna keep complaining, I know. And the breath of God is in my nostrils. You're gonna keep talking, we get it. My lips will not speak wickedness. Hypocrite. In the name, in the words of Jesus. Hypocrite! Nor my tongue utter deceit. You a fucking liar, dude. Far be it from me. It better be afterwards. That I should say you are right. They are right, man. You need to listen to them. Till I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. It's already in the closet. It's already put away. My righteousness I hold fast and will not let it go. You already threw it away like a football, dude. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I lived. Dude, your heart is a poached egg. And I know that's not the meaning of reproach, but that's pretty funny. May my enemy be like the wicked. I do wish that for you. And he who rises up against me like the unrighteous. But, Job, you were just saying how the wicked and unrighteous got everything. So maybe, like, considering what you just said and bringing that into context to what you're saying now, maybe you're kind of setting yourself up. And maybe you're kind of being an ass. You were smart. That's smart. But you ain't gonna get past that piss me. For what is hope of the hypocrite? I don't know, Job. Why don't you tell me? Though he may gain much. If God takes away his life, will God hear his cry? Of course he will. But will he hear the tree falling if there's nobody around to hear it? When trouble comes upon him, will he delight himself in the Almighty? Will he always call on God? If you have faith, Job, yes. I will teach you about the hand of God. What is the Almighty? What is with the Almighty? I will not conceal. Surely all of you have seen it. Why then do you behave with complete nonsense? What are you saying that the hand of God is? Are you saying that? What are you trying to shed light on, Job? This is the portion of the wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors received from the Almighty. Job, I'm gonna knock you out, dude. We're done here. I've heard enough. That's wild. That's crazy. Now he's connecting the lineage of the Almighty back to a secret relationship with God, where they would ultimately exist until the point where they would have just been able to kick Job while he was down. That's crazy, dude. Where were we? I am flabbergasted right now. If his children are multiplied, it is for the sword, so he can build an army. And his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. So they're going to have to move to your flesh, Job. That's what you're afraid of. Those who survived him shall be buried in death, and their widows shall not weep. They're going to be all right. You're right. God takes care of all widows. Though he heaps up silver with like dust, and piles up clothing like clay. What, in the bodies of his enemies? Is that what you're saying, Job? There's mass graves with his wicked ways of God? Right. He may pile it up, but the just will wear it, and the innocent will divide the silver. He builds his house like a moth. Ooh, Job, what the fudge are you saying, dude? like a booth, like a booth which a watchman makes. The rich man will lie down, but will not gather up. He opens his eyes, and he is no more. Terror overtake him like a flood. Oh, now he's talking about himself, because this was him, right? A tempest steals him away in the night. The east wind carries him away, and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurls against him and does not spare. He flees desperately from its power. Men shall clap their hands at him and shall hiss him out of his place. Right? That's what they're doing? They're hissing at him, right? It's just some of the words in the Bible, dude. I don't know. Right? Is that not what they called what cats did? But that's also what snakes did. Kind of sound? I don't know if snakes actually sound like that, or if that's just because I watched Harry Potter growing up. Right? And that's why we need this book, to keep people grounded in reality. I'm glad we're having a good time. Learning for God, right? It all makes sense. Does. It makes sense, right? When you figure out that, like, you just gotta live your life. You're never gonna figure out the answer until after you die. So you might as well come with as much evidence, peer-reviewed evidence, as you can, up until the moment of death. That way you can walk in organized, right? Just like Job is planning to do, I'm sure, right? At this moment. Well, before maybe. A couple chapters ago, right? He had his paperwork ready to go. It was all bindered up. He had it all tabbed. He was ready to go. It was all highlighted with his main points of talking points. And he was raring and ready to go. Right? So, live your life. God will protect you. He's there. He made a covenant with Abraham. And that's the only reason we're here. Right? So, have reverence for that. Right? And everything that God does for us should be icing on the cake. Could do a lot for everybody else, but not everybody wants to, first of all, just get along, right? I'm not saying, like, the beliefs is such a weird thing. And again, this is late enough in the episode. I've stumbled upon something called omnism, which is really just the general acceptance of all religions. So the main point for me as a kid was, like, how do people not get along? That's the main point of the religions. And, like, everything that you read in the Bible was people having arguments, right? Things going wrong, things were not going right, people weren't listening, and that's why we had the Bible as it was, right? Because it was a rubric for when things went wrong. Because that's kind of what life was, more or less. Things are good, right? Things are good most of the time. Right? And you're not asking for help. Think about that the next time something good happens to you. Let's take and flip this side of the coin, right? Spend so much time complaining about all the bad things that happen. How much do you thank God when good stuff happens, right? Like when time flies, when things are going good, right? When you're having a good time. Be more thankful in those. And again, maybe I'm just looking in the mirror talking to myself. But ask yourself that, right? How much are you really, like, being grateful for the time? I had a lady come up to me at work and started talking to me about slavery. And she was talking about, like, the slaves that killed their masters. And that, like, that attitude, right, to be enslaved for hundreds of years, which is the same attitude that the Egyptians would have had, right? But that attitude of, and it's almost like it spills into, like, what Gandhi did, like, with civil disobedience. And, like, the fact that, like, we still all have to be here, but I don't agree with what's happening. So, like, things have to keep moving, right? Life has to keep going on. and everybody still has to interact, and it's got to work out somehow, right? And if you have people that are not with the program, right? I guess segregation is because that's like, for thousands of years have we not fought wars over just beliefs, and it's going on literally right now. Was it some like college student got shot? They were yelling "Free Palestine" out of their car and they shot somebody, right? And that's in America. What are we doing? Is that not just like a gang war? 100,000-year-old gang war spilling out into the streets of America. You feel me? Do you feel me now, Mr. Krabs? Do you understand what I'm saying? That for like hundreds of years and thousands of years, we've just been offending each other and not making each other whole again. Not to say that it's even possible, right? But just for that long, and then there's only so much space on the world. It is a small world. It is a very big world, but it's also a very small world. We have to get along, dude. We all have to be here. And like, what's going to happen when there's 16 billion people in the world? You think we're going to be conforming to these laws and rules that we have in place right now? I think things are going to look a little bit different. And we wouldn't even know, right? How could you come up with a problem that you don't even know exists yet, right? A new problem. That's what they're trying to do with like trying to get to Mars, right? And but then you run into that, right? You look around, right? There's so much land that's preserved. And there really is a lot of it, and you have to do your best as a nation to preserve whatever land you can, right? Because at the end of the day, that is the sustainability of your nation and like the people that live around it. Like, I don't know, living in Arizona, New Mexico, right? That kind of area where it's just desert, or Texas, or right, there's still water and there's climate, there's an ecosystem, and it's never really that bad, like seasonally, except in the actual desert. But who knows? Talk about that. Like, do you think anything happened after World War II, right? I cannot imagine. A nuclear explosion, the most powerful force in the entire world that it had ever been felt thus far. Unless the Egyptians did have batteries, right? And they were running giant power stations through their pyramids. I think that would be the only evidence to see that they would have any technology that would do what they did in World War II, right? Um, you know, that level of just destruction should never have been felt, you know? But then again, right? That atomic bomb as an idea was like the Civil War, you know? And they talk about like nuclear winter after atomic, like an atomic bomb, right? A nuclear winter. And the fact that like it would contaminate your water supply, it would contaminate the ground. And then there's also stuff like it's called just a dirty bomb, right? Which isn't a nuclear explosion, but it would contain materials that would be radioactive. And it would pollute enough of the environment, right, where it would at least cause the land, besides a small initial explosion, it would cause a lot of the immediate land around that explosion to become inhabitable. Probably for a very long time, like hundreds of years, kind of. Unless it was properly cleaned up, but stuff like that. You know? Mustard gas was a thing in World War II. like the Geneva Conventions. Dude, the stuff that they had to tell people that they couldn't do after World War II and World War One, I assume I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. Because World War One was another opportunity for like technology as well, but it was more of like the physical technology, as opposed to maybe like World War Two was more about like chemical and non-physical, as in more like gas attacks and stuff. And then wouldn't even know if you would consider a nuclear explosion a physical thing, but I think you're breaking some laws of you're bending some laws of physics here. So I don't know, right? But then again, right? Billy Carson at it again. He said the the Ark of the Covenant was a nuclear reactor, and if right, if the Nazis or the Americans ever found the Ark of the Covenant, because what I think a lot of people don't know is that, yeah, you're right. They spent a lot of time in Africa. They spent so much time in Africa. Nobody knows where the Ark of the Covenant is, right? Currently, where it is right now, maybe it was in Africa. Why fight an entire war other than resources, right? And oil, obviously, which is what most of it was about. But like, they were stealing art, right? But maybe that was just a monetary thing. Now I'm just bringing in like random conspiracy theories here. So I've just been rambling for like the last 8 minutes. There's so many conspiracy theories, dude. But to say, right, they fought those things in Africa, and I think it was after World War One and before World War Two, kind of in that time. So they would have had time to find it, and if they had found it, they could have then been able to reverse engineer it to then create the atomic bomb. Again, you can quote Billy Carson on that, not me. I want it to be true at the end of the day, to be very honest with you, right? I want that to be true. That's more interesting. That's cool. That's a cool connection, right? That kind of makes sense at the end of the day, I think, right? You know, if all of those things were indeed true, then that would be cool, right? But then you have to go into like, then they had technology like that back then, and then that does change stuff. So who knows? We're not here for that. Thank you, God, for giving us a brain. Hopefully that wasn't too much. That was a lot. Well, I would say go check out Billy Carson, but I don't know. You know, check him out just to know who he is, right? If people say it. I don't think he's the way. I don't think the Emerald Tablet. Great, I've never seen it, right? I know stories of it, but then again, I didn't even know that Hermes Trismegistus was supposed to be the Antichrist. I didn't even know that. I'm a fucking idiot over here talking about him. I don't even know what he was supposed to be. So, yeah, it happens. You wouldn't even know it. But I think in a way, right, it's still better, not for everybody, but for me to know it. Maybe I'm destined to be in a fucking circumstance, right, where my knowledge is supposed to help somebody. So, I learned it for a reason. Alright. Thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to learn and grow as human beings every day, and give us strength and courage as we go throughout our days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, eons, to millennia and beyond. Find some peace.